So I came across a Harvard Business School article on the 10 characteristics of successful entrepreneurs. And I want to tell you how everyone is an entrepreneur, whether they have their own business or not. Entrepreneurship can be applied to any 9 to 5 at any position. So if you didn't know, you're an entrepreneur. Let's get to it. The article's 10 characteristics are as follows: curiosity, structured experimentation, adaptability, decisiveness, team building, risk tolerance, comfortable with failure, persistence, innovation, and long-term focus. As we go through each of these, I'd like for you to think of a past situation in your career that you've had to use or could have used that character trait. Starting with the first characteristic, curiosity. An entrepreneur is a person that's in a constant state of questioning. They spend their days challenging the way things are, only to ask how things should be. It's the identification of where something can be improved, where opportunities are, where a problem may exist, and finding its potential solution. At your job, allow yourself to be curious. Question the way your company gets things done. Ask yourself how it can be better. It's not being defiant, it's being inquisitive. But here's the key. Your manager and executives will only appreciate your curiosity if it comes with viable suggestions. If you only point out the problem but offer no solution, then you're as useful as a kid asking, "But why?" to everything you say. The next characteristic is required to develop the solutions to the things being questioned. Structured experimentation is an entrepreneur's ability to test their hypotheses, their inclinations. Experimentation is how ideas get shaved down into facts by using meaningful evidence. Implementing this in your career will be highly dependent on your industry, the type of problem or opportunity you've identified, and the resources available to you. But the objective is the same for everyone. Find meaningful evidence that supports your idea. When you bring a suggestion to the table, have an evidence-based argument prepared. And if you can't properly obtain that evidence, request that the necessary resources are given to you to do so. It's in the best interest of the firm to validate problems that exist and opportunities that materialize. Next on the list, adaptability. An entrepreneur expects the unexpected. Benjamin Franklin once said, "In this world, nothing is certain except death and taxes." I'd like to add to that. In this world, nothing is certain except death, taxes, and uncertainty. Business is a dynamic environment that is constantly evolving, and with that comes unexpected twists and turns. Entrepreneurs can adapt to unforeseen events and ensure their venture stays the course. Your career will no doubt fall victim to uncertainty. It's unrealistic to think your future as a professional will go exactly the way you expect. When projects go south, companies lay off workers, and markets change, it's best that you have a flexible mindset when navigating those tides. You'll never be blindsided, and you'll never be left behind. Adaptability is survivability. Number 4, decisiveness. This is all about decision making, something everyone does, but not necessarily well. And that's because it's genuinely hard to make a decision and stand by it. An entrepreneur has to be decisive because it's necessary to move their venture forward. Some decisions end up being wrong, but it's the follow-through that gets an entrepreneur to that conclusion. A destination without direction is useless. Most of us are horrible decision makers. We're either indecisive, prone to biased thinking, or fearful of negative outcomes. But if we properly weigh the pros and cons of a decision, we have to have confidence in our choices, even if there's a chance the outcome is unfavorable. Don't allow the constant element of uncertainty keep you from having conviction. As you progress in your career, decisiveness will become more important. The decisions you'll be making becomes increasingly difficult, and the stakes go nowhere but up. And chances are, people will be looking at you to show decisiveness because they themselves fear it. Up next, team building. For this, there is no better example than a sports team. In sports, there is an overall objective, which is win, but to win, you have to complete a set of smaller objectives like score points. But to score points, a team must work together to overcome the strengths of another team and the weaknesses of their own. So the key to a successful team is synergy. and entrepreneurs need to know how to create it. You have strengths and you have weaknesses, as do I, and as do your coworkers. It's important to be aware of those and be a complementary team member. Help where help is needed and never hesitate to ask for support. I know that's way easier said than done, especially if you have difficult team members, but a well-constructed team will achieve astronomically more than an individual ever could. Risk tolerance, perhaps the most important trait of all. An entrepreneur understands that anything worth pursuing comes with risk. It's inevitable. If there wasn't any risk, everyone would pursue that venture until there was no more reward to go around. But many people are extremely averse to the idea of loss. So always remember, risk is the single largest barrier to entry. Anything you do in your career will require some level of risk tolerance. The more significant the career move, the more risk you'll face. So you need to be okay with this relationship between risk and reward. It also goes back to being decisive in your decision making. It's imperative that risk alone doesn't prevent you from making the decision you believe to be right. It's better to include the risk in your decision making process than to avoid risk altogether. Risk tolerance isn't about being reckless, but rather about being strategic when weighing risk versus reward. Now, the next characteristic, comfortable with failure, is really just another aspect of risk tolerance. After all, failure is the ultimate risk. An entrepreneur must understand that failure is necessary to their process. Failing provides entrepreneurs with the answers and experiences to improve their chances of success on the next try. And most importantly, failure is an opportunity for an entrepreneur to test their persistence, their belief in what they are trying to accomplish. I'm sure most of us have felt the pain of failure at this point. We've all failed on some level, and that's okay. If you're not failing, you're not trying. And the bottom line is that if you want to accomplish something, the least you can do is try. In your career, there's going to be moments where you don't get that promotion you wanted, your great idea gets shut down, or that deal you've worked day and night on falls through. Does that mean you don't seek a promotion or don't share your great ideas? No. Learn what you can from your failure, get the answers and experiences you need to be prepared for next time. Today's failure is today's success. Now, how's that for cliche? I've already alluded to persistence, but it's worth driving the point home. To be comfortable with failure is one thing, but to keep coming back and trying and trying and trying is a whole other thing. An entrepreneur that isn't deterred by failure, but rather enticed by the challenge, is going to outlast their competition. And that's because it's borderline irrational, borderline insanity to continue to put oneself in losing situations. But the entrepreneur learns from every loss and changes their strategy on the basis of their new knowledge. And repeating that process persistently will greatly improve your odds of success. So our next characteristic is innovation. And I'll just say right now, I don't necessarily agree you need to be innovative in the traditional sense. Here's what I mean. When you think of innovative entrepreneurs, you may think of industry pioneers like Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, and Elon Musk. Their products and services introduced disruptive technologies that are described as transformative. So naturally, the word innovation comes loaded with expectations. But being innovative isn't about changing the world. It's not even about disrupting an industry. Sure, if you can, do it. You'll be a billionaire. But for most of us, innovation is more of a mindset. It's looking for ways to improve things, whether that's a process at work or a logistical procedure or even ourselves. I'll be the first to admit, I'm not very innovative in the traditional sense. How someone came up with crypto blows my damn mind. But I'm constantly looking for ways to improve my skill set and ultimately increase the value I provide to others. Is making financial content innovative? Not really, but I strive to improve what I'm doing to create more value for each of you. So approach your career and other ventures with improvement in mind. Bring more value to your marketplace. And for our last characteristic, we have long-term focus. An entrepreneur strikes a balance between the short and long term. They work on short-term issues without forgetting the long-term vision. And that's important because there are countless moments in a venture that can derail it entirely. Having long-term focus is difficult. There will be times where you're discouraged or unmotivated or just flat out lost, but it's important that you let that long-term vision guide you. Remember that your biggest accomplishments in life will take time. And starting your work towards a goal is just one part. You have to follow through. You have to embrace the process from start to finish, no matter how long that takes. So if you didn't know you were an entrepreneur, now you know. You can apply entrepreneurship to any 9-to-5 at any position. And as a matter of fact, you can apply it to all aspects of your life, not just your career. So the takeaway, you don't have to own a business to be an entrepreneur, but you do need to bring the mentality. And that's all I have for today. As always, thank you for watching. Until next time, take care of yourself and best of luck.